In this week's episode of Pageants and Tangents, we're talking about what it takes to have your big title holder breakthrough.
Welcome to the Pageants and Tangents podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back to Pageants and Tangents, where we occasionally talk about pageants, and we're trying to get sponsored by Waffle House if Peyton has anything to say about it. Now, we have a special guest that is not Morgan in the bottom right. It's not a face swap thing happening again. So I think we'll get our special guest, Davia Esther, to introduce herself first. So Davia, tell us a bit about yourself and how you have the pleasure, I'll say that loosely, of knowing Morgan.
Oh, yes. So I am Davia. I'm born and raised in South Carolina and was Miss South Carolina 2018. So kind of back in the day. And Morgan was my very first trainer that I've ever worked with. She helped me compete in Miss South Carolina USA right after I gave up my title. We got 3 top 5 placements, but we never won. But then since then, she's been like a personal friend of mine and trainer. And since then, I went on to do The Bachelor. I now live in New York City. I have a career in beauty marketing, and then I write on the side. So kind of a big pageant history, and Morgan played a huge role in that for me. And I still do her workouts every single day.
Wow. Okay, that's dedication. I was going to say it's nice to meet a fellow Substack author, because I'm on Substack and there are very few people on Substack. So it's nice to meet someone who also writes on Substack. And also, I was doing the stalk before we brought you on, and I saw that you play pickleball, although I think you gave yourself a score out of 6.5. So
that was at a wedding that I went to, and they forced all of us to play pickleball, and I realized I have zero hand-eye coordination. That's why I did pageants and not sports in college.
But that's also probably why you did ballet.
Yeah.
Because I did do the stalking. I used to be a tennis coach, and the one thing I can tell you about ballerinas and rhythmic gymnasts, they're very good, very elegant, very on balance, like Haley, but then throw them a ball and then it hits them in the face.
We have hand-leg coordination, not like hand-eye coordination.
Yeah. Haley, can you hit a ball? We've had this discussion, but I haven't seen any proof. Do you have the hand-eye coordination going on?
I can throw one beautifully. I did a couple pitches for Seawolves games, so I had to practice and get that really good, but I cannot catch anything that you throw at me from any distance whatsoever. It is awful.
You juggle?
No.
Can anyone here juggle?
I could try.
That's not.
I believe
that's
in
not
Peyton.
Yeah, I could try.
Is that a rag doll behind you?
That's my ragdoll kitten. I got her in December, so she makes the New York winters very cozy.
Can you bring her forth?
Huh?
Can you bring her forth?
Yeah. Her name is Dot.
Everyone knows I have cat problems.
This is
Oh,
she's the light of my life. Isn't she so precious? She's a little menace though, but we just fed her, so she's in a good mood.
She looks so majestic.
Podcast. She would be a pageant girl if they had one for cats.
Oh yeah.
Yes, so pretty.
Thank
So
you.
pretty. My brother has a rag doll who has weight problems. We call him morbidly obese rag doll, and he doesn't look pretty at all. He's a complete sort of diva. She is gorgeous.
No, they are big. She's almost 7 pounds, and she's only like 5 months old. So she'll be a big girl. But we love that.
Octavius would eat her.
Do you want to give context, Peyton, as to who Octavius is?
Octavius is my morbidly obese cat. He weighed in at 19.5.
Oh my gosh. It's a chunky monkey.
Very.
Okay, I'm going to put her down.
That should be his new name, the Chunky Monkey.
Chunky monkey.
I'm just curious, Davia, how did Morgan convince you to jump on this? What did she say?
So we were chatting earlier today because I'm doing like a social media series for fitness. And so I was chatting to her about it. And she was like, hey, like I'm feeling a little under the weather. You want to do a podcast? And I was like, sure. And then that was really it. She had no Morgan doesn't need to convince me to do anything. She just says it. And I'm like, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I've been watching your clips for a while, and I was like, you guys do a really fun podcast, and I always see what you post on social media, so I'm happy to join.
you haven't seen behind the scenes. You don't want to, by the way. But I'm glad. I mean, this surely will be the highlight of your career after having been Miss South Carolina 2018 and appearing on The Bachelor twice. Well, this will be the crowning moment of your entire career. So, you should feel lucky that you're on here. And just for those watching, that was a joke. Okay, I know people don't understand my humor because I'm deadpan. Anyway, Davia. I sound like a stalker now, but I saw around the time that you were crowned, I think Berkeley Bryant, who went on to be Miss Volunteer America, was crowned a teen
She
title
was my
holder.
Miss South Carolina teen.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so Berkeley and I were Miss South Carolina teen together. I'm still very, very close with Berkeley. I was there like the day she decided to even compete for the volunteer system, all the way up to winning the national title. She's someone that I am so proud of, but then also like admire so much. Talk about work ethic and the right timing and how to win a title. That girl has worked so hard for everything that she's been able to accomplish.
Yeah, she was the whole reason I became interested in the volunteer system to begin with, because I interviewed her. And yes, she's got the glam, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone who works harder than that girl. I mean, every day it seemed like she was on a flight and she was doing the hard yards. They brought up a figure of how many miles she had flown in the year, because I went to volunteer last year. It was some ridiculous thousands of miles that she traveled. I also saw that you had competed around the same time as Tori. What was her name? Tori Smith? Yeah, that's right. Tori Sizemore.
Yeah. She's amazing too. She was also top 5 at volunteer.
And she also was
Miss
competed in the America and the USA system. And I think she was a teen as well.
I forgot about that. Yeah, South Carolina pumps them out.
I was going to say, it's a small world. I mean, off the top of your head, can anyone tell me how many Miss Americas or Miss USAs has South Carolina taken home?
I think we only had one Miss America. And I don't know if we've had a Miss USA.
Really?
Yeah, I could be very wrong, though.
And
Utah's got that effect on volunteer, though. Utah has had 1 teen and 2 miss now, and it's only been 5 years running.
Wow.
But okay, I will say the Miss America's teen right now is from South Carolina too. Yes, Tess Firm. She's so cute. So cute. Oh my gosh, for social media.
The weird thing for me is Georgia, Peyton. Georgia hasn't taken home a Miss USA title. And I'm good friends with Savannah Miles. And so, the whole thing was like, oh, can she bring it home? So Georgia, despite being a pageant powerhouse, has yet to bring home the USA title. Maybe that'll change in the near future. But Miss Peyton has to love us and leave us earlier today than she would like. So I'm going to get Peyton, catch us up. What's your last week been like? It sounds pretty manic.
Yes. Was it the last time we talked that the snow was creeping in? Was that the last time we talked? It didn't happen that weekend that I was worried about. It happened last weekend when no one was expecting it, of course, as Georgia goes. So I think we got like 1/4 of an inch or something like that, just enough to have fun with snow. So that was good, but it did in fact freeze my pipes and the basement is in fact flooded. So that is why I have to go. We have to figure out what we're going to do about that. So that's fun. I'm not a plumber. I will be no help. I'll hold on to the cats so they don't get in the water.
How did your you said you had a speed painting thing. How did your speed painting go?
It got canceled for the snow. I know.
Okay.
I know.
Well, that sounds like a very exciting week that never really happened. Haley, what about yourself? A new Harvard student. What's your week been like?
I did all of my homework and then I had my second class at Harvard and got through that. It was really fun. My classes function like actual newsrooms. So I got to pitch my first story idea and I got really good feedback from my professor. I don't actually have to write a story on that yet. It was just like a mock experience. And then I'll have some more papers I have to write for next week. And I'm really excited.
Wow. Okay. Can I ask what your homework was?
I had several hours of reading and annotating different passages as examples, and then we went over them in class. And then there was a lot of discussion of what we read. And then I had an essay to write, and then I had to research the partial government shutdown over the weekend and come up with topics that I could write about as a reporter.
Wow. Are you thinking like you're going to be newspaper journalist, voice, like video, audio, written?
I like everything. We're just going to have to see what sticks.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, you do like to yap.
do.
So audio and video seem like a good way to do it. Davia, just whilst I remember, on the subject of reading, you have a Substack. My website is also based on Substack, so it's cool to meet a fellow Substacker. But how can people read your Substack? What's the address?
It's just my username title, Davia Esther. So you can go and find my Substack there. I write a lot of personal essays about life, dating, love, childhood, performance. So it's kind of like where all of my like heart and soul is. Started writing last year, so I love it.
Sounds exciting. All right, let's get into it before we lose Peyton. So we're going to talk about what it takes to win your big title. Now, I know big title, we'll put that in inverted commas, but I work as a pageant coach with a lot of contestants and sometimes their mothers as well. And, you know, you've got a lot of girls who are doing all the hard work and yet they never seem to cross the finishing line. Now, I know there's a lot more to pageantry than simply winning the title, as I'm sure all three women here would agree with me. That being said, we're also all competitive. I won't speak for Davia. I will assume that she is. So we would like to win as well. That's at all possible. And all three of these women have won major titles. I'm going to say they're major, even if they don't think they are. But I want to ask them what they thought it took to go from contestant to title holder, other than just persistence. Because persistence is one thing. And we often say, you know, it's not your time yet. I still don't think that means everyone will have a time wearing the crown. But I wanted to get their perspective on it. And so we'll go to Peyton first, because as I said, she needs to deal with Noah's flood, apparently. So, Peyton, you've got your title of Miss Georgia Volunteer. What do you think made the difference?
So I would like to jokingly but seriously say I don't know yet. Going into the state competition, for context, I competed for 3 years at Miss Georgia America. Never walked away with that title, obviously. But like you said, the persistence has to be there. The want has to be there. If you don't want it, odds are it's not going to happen, because there are certain hoops you have to jump through. It's not an easy thing, right? None of these systems are easy, or however you want to look at them. And some of them seem unattainable. Some of them seem almost impossible to reach the level that you're looking for. So I think persistence is key. Perseverance is key. Last year, I walked away from Miss Georgia Volunteer, the first runner-up. And for a lot of people, that would have been enough, and that would have just let the rest of it fizzle out and be done at that. But you have to persevere and walk in knowing that you were first runner-up last year, and you can only either do worse or better, really, in that situation. You either walk away with the crown or you did worse than you did last year. And I hate that perspective of that as well, because it started to get into my head, especially going into the state competition. So overcoming that, having the perseverance to continue. But also we don't know what it is, right? It's different judges. It's a different day. We've all heard that scenario. And sometimes it is your personality. Most of the time it should be, right? But we talk a lot about this podcast about, you know, the negative stigmas that surround the interview room or the actual pageant system itself. So sometimes it's not going to be that. Unfortunately, some people do have ulterior motives, and that's super unfortunate and not something that we ever want to happen within these pageant systems, but is also a factor. So for me, going into the next level, going into Miss Volunteer America, those are the two things that I'm focused on, is my hard work, my perseverance, and also just completely going into it, being happy with whatever outcome happens. Because that was the only shift that I had walking into Miss Georgia Volunteer this year, was being okay with doing worse than I did last year. And it brought around me kind of a peace and let me really relax walking into the interview room. really lean onto my prior knowledge for all of my walks, and extremely so lean onto my prior knowledge for my speed painting. Just completely relax in the fact that I knew what I was doing. And if that was enough, then it would be enough. And I think truly for me, walking into Miss Georgia Volunteer and walking away with the title, it was the mindset shift. It was knowing that I could do this, knowing that I had no control over it otherwise, but knowing that I was going to do the best that I could in that day and being okay with whatever the outcome was. So I truly believe that that's what got me the title of Miss Georgia Volunteer. But again, I have to go through the same thing here in about 4 or 5 months. And it'll be the same process for me. I can't guarantee myself that title, but I can guarantee that I'm going to work my tail off to get there and be happy with whatever I did on stage.
I think something that's really important that you just said is none of us really know at the end of the day what the judges are looking for. And this is where I take exception to a lot of coaches who claim to have some sort of secret, and that if you do what they say, you say what they tell you to, or you walk the way they want you to, and somehow that's a secret to winning. And then they tell you, oh, dye your hair blonde, wear this dress, and don't do that. And it's like, guys, at the end of the day, it's subjective more than anything else. And so you just got to do the hard work and trust that whatever happens is going to happen and it's going to be fair and above board. But let me ask you this, Peyton. What you said makes a lot of sense, being at peace and, accepting whatever's going to happen. But how did you do that? Because there are a lot of people who have problems, especially my more competitive friends. They have a lot of problems accepting that something is out of their control. So how did you come to actually accept that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm somebody that is medicated for OCD. So things out of my control are not okay with me ever. So it took a lot of mind work. It took a lot of talking with my family about scenarios, making sure that I had, and we've talked about this before, goals past the title, making sure that I was working for other things, making sure that I had hobbies kicked up and going, that I was going to be excited to go back home and start back up. I made sure that I had my garden growing outside so that when I got home, maybe I'd have a bunch of tomatoes and be able to make some kind of salsa or something that makes me happy, right? So find something that brings you joy that's completely outside of what you're aiming for. Make sure you have a strong cushion of friends, a strong cushion of people behind you, and really doing the actual mental work. For some people, that's meditation. For me, it's a lot of prayer. It's a lot of work in my Bible. It's a lot of self-reflection. It's a lot of quiet time, to be very honest with you. Even if that's just in the car, sometimes I ride and you might think I'm psychotic, but sometimes I ride in dead silence. And it's because I'm talking to myself, I'm thinking, and sometimes I'm talking out loud. But it really is. That's the kind of mental work you have to do, especially if you're somebody like me that struggles with things that are out of your control. You truly have to act like a crazy person and talk to yourself like you're your own best friend. You have to pray about it. You have to meditate, and you have to talk to other people that you trust about it too, and really just get it all out there. Have honest conversations and tell your best friends, people that aren't going to judge you, aren't going to shame you for whatever you're thinking, because as crazy as you think you sound, odds are you don't, and you just need to talk it out with somebody else. So that would be my advice.
I often get asked, who was I talking to? And the answer is myself. I've stopped trying to hide it ever since I got my ADHD diagnosis. I'm like, just let's lean into this. Let's drop the facade, and I will have full-blown conversations with myself or with my cat. I do say now that I know all three of you have at least one cat, cat 4, you get to talk to them. And they understand everything. They just look at you with their sage eyes whilst you hold them up. I mean, it's a rag doll. It has no bones. But you just pick them up around everyone. You have a good talking to it. Haley, were you going to say something? I saw the hand go up.
Yes, I wanted to tell you, Peyton, that I also talk to myself in my car when I'm getting ready for a pageant. I'll run interview questions. I'll practice speeches. I'll plan my social media captions, just talking to me. And I know I look psycho, and I've accepted it because it works.
Yeah. Yes, I also have sticky notes in my car, and I will stick them to my dash. I will write on at a stoplight and stick them in exactly. Just, free thoughts.
I did the same thing. I would practice my interview questions in my car, and then I would voice memo myself so I could hear myself back on how I answered my questions, and then perfect them along the way.
Mm-hmm. I do the
That-
same thing.
That's one thing I will say, Davia. I mean, these two know. I keep saying you guys need to listen to what you sound like. You cannot simply rely on any coach to tell you what you look like, what you sound like. You need to know. And the number of people who refuse to do that because I think they're afraid to know what they actually sound like, it's not doing anyone any favors. But I mean, Peyton, if that makes you psychotic, I'm going to bet a lot of people would now be classified psychotic. I mean, do you guys get weirded out when you meet a person and they say they have no internal monologue?
Yes. I'll
I
admit,
can't
that's
understand.
weird. That's weird to me.
I mean, do any of you, I mean, I just said it's weird, but do any of you have internal silence?
Sometimes.
I was going to say Haley.
Yeah. I think in terms of ideas and processes most of the time instead of verbiage. So there's like a flow of information, but it's not necessarily a monologue,
Right. Okay.
if that's a useful description.
Well, I just don't understand it. I tried doing the meditation thing. Peyton mentioned meditation. I even took on a meditation teacher, a private one. I just sat there the whole time going, I should be thinking nothing. I should be thinking nothing, like clear your mind, clear your mind, clear your mind. And then I realized my mind was full of clear your minds. It didn't work. And then I got frustrated. So I will say for me, my version of finding peace, I need to be actively doing something. So for me at the time, one of the two things I found, playing tennis coach, tennis crazy person. And then also when CrossFit came out, and I mentioned this to Morgan, learning how to do Olympic lifting, because if you don't focus on that, you can end up having a very bad accident. And anything that demanded my attention actually became my meditation. So my meditation was much more of an active one rather than sitting down in a lotus position, because that just didn't work for me. But you got to find what works for you, right? So Haley, what about you? So for clarification, those of you watching or listening, you don't know, Haley just handed over about a week or two ago. I think it was anyway, actually probably closer to a month ago now. I'm looking.
It was a month yesterday.
Miss Earth. Yeah, that's right. You had your 1 month has queen or has been anniversary.
Alumni. The word is alumni, not has been. Thank you very much.
Well, that's what Morgan called you. I'm just going to stick with that. Yeah. 1 month of being alum, but what did it take in your estimation to finally get over the finishing line?
I think the first thing I would say for my girls who are repeatedly competing and making semifinals but not placing, or my girls who are repeatedly placing but not winning, is, are you sure that you are in the right system? Because you can want it so bad and work so hard and show up every year and have all of the perseverance and be doing everything objectively correct and just not be the right fit. So I see a lot of girls get really dedicated to one system because they love competing for it. And I totally understand that. But there are a lot of great systems out there that you can try if you feel like you're getting really close and you're performing at your peak, but you're just not bringing home the crown. So I've seen a lot of people switch systems and then all of a sudden they start winning. So I competed for Miss Pennsylvania USA 2 years in a row. And I was like, I'm a little bit younger on the Miss division and I want to try something else. And I'm about to go to medical school. So let me compete in one more pageant before I drop everything and do that. Didn't end up doing that. That's okay. And I competed for Miss Earth USA. And there were a few different things that I did that made the difference for me. So my platform development, I took it farther than I have ever taken it before. I got legislation at the state and federal level to address microplastic pollution. So, you know, I felt like I really believed in my work at that point. And I think you have to have a plan for what you're going to do if you win the title, so that when you're in your interview, you know that you are the best possible choice. Sorry, guys, I can't hear myself. So if I sound a little weird, I'm sorry. But I had one more thing. Oh, so we did a reality show for Miss Earth USA this year, and we did our first confessionals in January. And I am not a particularly emotional person, and that was very challenging for me. So I came home and I talked to Tom Brodeur, who was my coach at the time, and he sent me to Scene Entertainment to do acting classes once a week, not to learn to act, but to learn to express emotions and be uncomfortable in front of people that I did not know. And it worked. So we had surprise interviews for Miss Earth USA, and I didn't know that I was going to be interviewing at all during the week that we filmed. And I won an interview, and then I won the title. So if you're someone who's maybe a little bit more stoic in the interview room and you feel like you're not quite connecting with the judges or the audience, definitely recommend acting classes. It's like a weird tip that helps a lot of people.
I think we should dig, before we go over to Davia for her thoughts, I think we should dig into, I think it makes a lot of sense. I say selection is 80% of the game, whether it's dating or pageants or anything in life. But then the next follow-up sensible question is, well, how do I know which system I should compete in? Or maybe that's a bad word. Like, what are the differences between the systems? And if we focus on USA, America, and volunteer, because those are the three ones that I sort of fly around the circles in. And I actually interviewed behind the scenes a few people who had competed in 2 or all 3 of those systems, because I wanted to hear from them what they thought the difference was specifically in interview. And I'll just quickly say, they said USA was really not so much about can you answer the question, it was about relatability. Can you walk into a room and people love you? It doesn't so much matter what you say is inspiring, although it certainly could be, but can you be the girl next door? America was, oh my God, I got to face the firing squad, because you never know what's going to get asked. It's completely random, and apparently there can be a wide variation between local and national, and local apparently is even more chaotic because they get random people from the community to ask you. And I had a teen competing, and she was asked everything about ICE and all that stuff, which I wouldn't want to answer. She was a teen getting asked those questions. And then volunteer, the consensus seemed to be it's somewhere in the middle. It's not just relatability, but it's not quite as prickly as America. So if I go over to Davia first, just in general, what are your feelings on what are the differences between the major systems?
So I spent my time competing in both USA and America, so I can speak from those. And I do have to agree with you. USA is more about personality. Of course, they'll ask you a couple of hard questions, but it's how you can make somebody feel and be aspirational, aside from what's the right words to say at the right time. When America, I do think that there's this pressure to be a spokesperson and marketable for the organization. It is much more of a job. And then for USA, it is a job, but at the end of the day, they want people to fall in love with you and not just the organization. So I do think there's a lot more personality that goes into USA that is still there for America, but America really does. It's a scholarship organization. They want someone really smart, and you kind of have to prove that to them in an interview.
Davia, what's the hardest question you've ever been asked in an interview?
Oh my gosh. I mean, like, so much under the sun. I think the stupid questions would really stump me. But I think like my Miss America onstage question was how to better relationships between America and Russia. And I was like, okay, I'm on stage and I got 15 seconds to answer this. So that was a fun one to answer for my Miss America onstage question.
I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, this is sometimes where I think they're a bit unfair to you pageant girls asking something like that, because I think whichever way you answer that, given the political climate, I mean, back 10 years ago, maybe it was a bit different, but you can't answer that sort of question now without losing half the room.
No. And then Miss South Carolina USA, I think I was top 5 every time I competed. And one of them was, if your house was burning down, what's the first thing you'd grab? So like there's a little bit of like showing you the difference between the two.
Well, I hope the answer right now is your cat. Because
yeah, I would say that now. Yeah.
Run in and save the ragdoll. Peyton, what about yourself from your experience? What do you think the major differences are between USA, America, volunteer?
I've actually competed in all 3. I have a year's experience competing in Miss Georgia USA, Georgia South USA. I actually competed with Savannah Miles, so that's how I ended up knowing her. Precious, love her so much. I was in the top. It's right there. I was top 4, Georgia South USA, which is more or less, they call it the Super Bowl of the South. It's more or less Miss Georgia USA. There might be a couple more girls at the USA level, but it was the fastest interview I've ever had. I will say that. I was used to America at that point, and I hadn't yet done volunteer. Volunteer was a couple of months after that I tried the first time. So I was very used to the 9.5-minute interviews in America. And I want to say the USA one was, 2-3 minutes? Is that all it was? Yeah. Oh, it was so fast. I had no idea. want to say I answered a few questions. Most of them were fairly generic based off of my paperwork. I remember getting one curveball question. I don't remember what it was, but I was able to answer it fairly well, or at least spin it around. Volunteer, my experience thus far has been that the judges, I get everybody that I've talked to also in their interview, so this isn't just me, the judges are doing the absolute most to learn who you are. And not that America and USA didn't do that, but it was borderline like this kind of conversation. Like there was almost a back and forth a little bit where it was like more or less, you know, in America, sometimes you'll say stuff or you'll try to crack a joke, right? And they're like, and you're like, oh, missed. I threw it and I missed, right? But in volunteer, it's almost like they would be like, oh my gosh, like my grandma says that joke all the time or something like that. It was more or less borderline a back and forth, more of a conversation. So for me, volunteer was easier, but that's just how I like to talk.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's unusual to hear that it was a back and forth. Having said that, I think that would be, I'm not going to say the best way of doing it, but that's certainly how I would do it, because I do understand the idea of interviewing for a job, but I also think you can read a person's competency off a resume. You can read the list of achievements for yourself. And I think if anytime I've judged, I've read the actual paperwork. I know some judges don't do that, but I also want to find out about you. I think especially in this day and age, you need to know a person's personality, not just, you know, their list of qualifications. And it's only by really knowing someone that you can really get a feel, I think anyway, for what sort of title holder that person could make. I mean, I'll point to Berkeley again, because I think everyone's aware of Berkeley. I mean, Berkeley has a list of achievements longer than my arm. But at the end of the day, if you're around her, and I did meet her in person, everyone just loves being around her. She really is that stereotypical person. She walks in a room and everyone just loves being around her, which is why it was so sad when she lost her mother last year or earlier this year, I think, to breast cancer. It was really hard to see someone, you know, when bad things happen to good people, it's doubly hard. But you could just see Berkeley radiating that kind of warmth. And I think she found her home in Miss Volunteer America. I'll go across to Haley. Obviously, I'm going to get you to bring in Earth into this, because obviously you have a lot of experience competing at Miss Earth USA, but also at Miss Earth International. So from your experience, what would people be looking for and maybe go, okay, I should compete in USA or I should compete in Earth USA?
I have gotten a variety of different things in interview at USA. So I competed twice as a teen and twice as a miss. Some interviews were very personality based. The last time I competed for Miss Pennsylvania USA, it was the morning after the presidential debate. And my first question was, what one issue do you want to see both candidates address head on? And I had to deal with that right away with 2 minutes total to talk for the entire interview. So it kind of goes either way. It depends on who your judges are. For Earth, obviously, there's the environmental component. Everyone who competes in that pageant has some sort of environmental platform. I do think it's pretty easy to take any platform and figure out how to make it environmental. So if you feel like you're maybe not a good fit for the system based on that, I would challenge that idea, because I did change my platform from women's health to plastic pollution pretty easily, and it worked out well for me. So I would like to see more people go to Earth. It's a really good sisterhood. I will say you get that down to earth type of personality across the board, both at national and international competitions for Earth. And I've walked away from that pageant with more friends than any other one I've ever competed in. So it's a good one.
Nice. The 4 international major pageants considered anyway, what they call the 4 Grand Slam pageants, they call the Big 4.
Yes.
It's USA, well, Universe, Earth, World, and International.
Yes.
I don't hear much about World or International in America. Is that, I know Laura Clark recently took over International, but before her, is it just my imagination, or World and International are sort of like secondary thoughts in the US?
Not quite. They've gone through some different developments with different directors. So Miss US International, I think, is kind of picking up where there's more candidates who are interested in it. I don't know if it was appointed at all in the past, But US International is more of a diplomacy pageant at the international level as well. So they're very United Nations focused, and they look for sort of Princess Diana types. It's a little bit more conservative of a pageant.
Yeah. Being in Japan, it certainly is more conservative. And guys, for those of you watching or listening, Haley mentioned appointed titles. If you don't know what they are, that means you get given the title, or given is unkind. You might be handpicked, selected by someone who knows that you're very, very deserving. But basically it means there's no competition for said title. And I do think the international title was appointed maybe at least once, but all these systems are evolving as we speak. Davia, so if I go through to you, why don't you refresh my memory as to your pageant journey, and then we can go into the differences you see between, not the differences, beg your pardon, what you think it took to finally get that title of Miss South Carolina, because that by no means is a minor title. Everyone knows South Carolina and everyone knows Miss America. But what was your journey like? What did you learn, and what do you think finally got you over the line, so to speak?
Yeah. So I actually never competed in pageants growing up. I found the Miss America system when I was in college. I grew up dancing ballet though. So I studied ballet in Russia, made the decision to go to college instead of pursuing a professional career. And I felt a little lost in college. I found out that there was a college pageant, and the winner got to compete at Miss America or Miss South Carolina. And I kind of observed it my first year, competed my very first time at Miss South Carolina when I was 20, placed top 10, and then I won my second year. So it was kind of a crazy journey for me. I had no idea what I was doing, to be quite honest with you. But I think the biggest thing for me is the person that showed up the first year versus the second year was night and day different. I think when we talk about winning and especially success in pageantry, I mean, I've gone on to judge. I judged Miss Oklahoma Teen America about 2 years ago. So from a contestant's point of view and a judge point of view, having relatability in any system goes so far. I think whenever you're in a system for a while, you get really bogged down in trying to figure out how you can mold in to the winner's stereotype, and being able to show up in that interview room freshly as yourself with your own perspective and your own story can go so far than you actually realize. And you have to be able to figure that out for your own. I think the biggest tip that I can give anybody is you have to think of yourself also as a brand and as something that you can market really quickly. And so every single part that you compete in a pageant, you should really be thinking about how they can fit together to tell the story that you're trying to make, whether that's your platform, how that relates to your personal story. And the judges only get a short interview time with you. And so what's the most memorable thing that you want to carry from that interview through every course of your action? And so you can think about that. And this is the one thing that I want to tell about my story in that interview room, and really dive for the chance of trying to talk about the reason why you're there, what work that you want to do, and how it relates back to you, and incorporate parts of that on stage as well. That could be in your talent, that could be in something that you wear to bring you back to kind of like who the core of who you are. I think as long as you know, A, how to be relatable, and then B, what is your messaging that you're trying to spread throughout the course of this pageant, those are two key defining factors that will help you get across the finish line. Easier said than done, though. I do think there is a little bit of luck in it. And then, as the girl said earlier, finding the system that's right for you. But every day, craft at your skill, go above and beyond. Like, you really have to make this your life for a year, because, or as you're competing, really go and create all of those sacrifices that you know are going to pay off. Like, I spent countless nights in the studio at 8 o'clock at night after all of my college classes, really rehearsing my talent. I would wake up early to go to events so I could talk to people, but not only build my resume of things that I've done for the community, but go out and have conversations with people that you'd never have conversations before in your life. Because not only do you get to understand who you're going to be representing for the next year, but you learn how to talk to people from so many different ages and walks of life and styles. So as long as you keep putting yourselves in uncomfortable situations that force you to grow, not only, like we said, going down the car ride and voice recording yourself giving interview questions, talking to people with different political beliefs than you about really hard topics to see how you can talk to them and share your point of view in a conductive way, or to see what other point of views are out there, or just going to the studio late at night to practice your talent. As long as you keep carving out time to really make your dream a reality, not only will it sharpen every area of the pageant that you're competing in, but then it also just kind of makes you more of a well-rounded person, and having a goal in mind of, this is the finish line, and every single thing I'm doing every single day is putting me in my mindset to get there. And I think it's really all about your preparation, and then being able to let go, relax, and then just think about core of like who you are once you're there, and then the rest kind of just fall in place.
We definitely have to do an episode at some point on branding and marketing, because I see so many pageant girls struggle with that. And the problem is, a lot of people talk about it, but it's one of those things, like you said, talk about it. Yes, we go, yes, branding is important. Okay, but what does it mean? And I think there are very few people, not just pageant girls, I think there are very few people who know how to do that effectively. And I think it comes down to business. And I mean, if you're in Manhattan, right, Davia?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. So if there's anywhere that you need to know how to brand yourself in, like, the 30-second elevator pitch, I'm going to guess where you're at. Everyone's got that down pat. It's a skill you absolutely need to have. But can I just back up a sec? Did you say you studied ballet in Russia?
I did. Yeah. When I was 17.
Okay,
Crazy.
you can't just, Haley's also a ballerina. So I'm sure Haley would love to hear the story. Can you tell me how that happened? Because I don't know anything about ballet. I know about the Bolshoi though. How did you end up studying ballet in Russia at 17? You must be pretty good. Better than pickleball anyway.
It kind of got me, but definitely better than pickleball, that's for sure. But whenever you're doing ballet, I studied in Vaganova, which is the Russian style ballet. There's a big thing over the summer. All of these big ballet companies will open up summer intensives where you can go and travel to mainly like New York City or whatever city that the ballet companies are hosting their summer intensive, and as a student go and learn from their instructors. So the Bolshoi Ballet had one in New York City, and every summer they accept about 10 students to do the first half of their summer intensive in New York City, and then spend about 10 weeks in Moscow studying at the Bolshoi Ballet. So that's what I did when I was 17. And it was the first time I ever studied abroad. It was like one of the biggest life-changing experiences that I've ever had. And I'd studied political science and Russian in college. Ballet was my talent at Miss America. So it was like a big part of who I was during the Miss America system.
Wow. How's your Russian?
Yeah, in Russian. I never had a desire to learn Russian language until I was there. And once you're immersed in the culture, you really just get a knack and love for it. And I fell in love with the language, the people, everything. But it was like the craziest experience to this day I've ever gotten to live. I would love to go back and visit St. Petersburg, but hopefully one day.
Given the current political climate, hopefully soon. I've heard a lot of things about how beautiful St. Petersburg is. I studied a bit of Russian because as a tennis coach, a lot of the best players in the world at the time were Russian. So I thought, I'm going to coach in Russia. I better learn Russian. And I will say, Russian is nothing like English. You got to learn the alphabet first off, which is Cyrillic, which is completely different. I still remember how to count to 10 and like the word for cat and dog, but that's about it. Haley, and then I'm going to go back to Peyton because I know she'll have to leave us soon. But Haley, can you just, so that we can properly traumatize, can you tell her about your experience dancing on the rubber mat?
Okay. So Miss Earth breaks you into 4 groups based on the elements. So I was in the eco group, and we went to a school, it was a university, to do our talent competition. And we were in a gym that was almost sort of like a courtyard. So it was like a courtyard leading into this massive gym. So it was open windows. It was at least 90 degrees in there, super humid. I was there in typhoon season, and they had put this rubber mat down. Okay. So you know how in like a daycare or on a playground or something, they'll have like a rubber mat and it's bumpy. It has the little bumps on it so that people don't fall, like it's for traction. Okay, so it was strips of that were about 4 feet wide all the way across this floor. So it wasn't completely flat either. There were like parts of it that were sticking up. And then the person that went a couple of people before me, she threw confetti all over the floor, and they kept trying to like sweep it up and get it off the floor, but they couldn't get all of it. So there was still some on there when I competed in my point shoes, by the way, on this surface. And the stage manager comes up to me and he goes, "Miss USA, are you going to be okay?" And I was like, "I am going to do the very best that I can, and whatever happens is going to happen, and it's going to be just fine." And he was like, "Okay, USA, you go." And I was like, "Great." So I went out there and I did like a little test releve, okay, and almost fell flat on the floor. It was pretty dangerous, but I got through it and I won the gold medal. So I'll take it. It worked out.
That's incredible for you.
Thank
But
you.
knowing surfaces like that, there's no way for your shoe to move at all. Like,
No.
and that's insane. Oh,
Yeah, I was having to like walk through turns. It got a little crazy. I kind of marked a thing or two because I was like, I'm going to fall. There's no way. This is not going to happen.
I'm sure it still looked beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
It looked beautiful to the untrained eye, but I saw that Haley was competing on a rubber mat. I'm like, that's probably not going to go well from my limited knowledge of ballet.
Well, it's
but
not-
she soldiered through.
Yeah, it's not recorded. So it was streamed somewhere, I think, but it was never saved. So I don't have a video of it. My team manager tried to record a video of it, but she did the whole thing in slow motion. So I took some clips from the 13-minute video of my 2-minute performance and kind of spliced them together and sped it up so I had something I could post, but I've never seen the performance full out at normal speed, at least.
This is where, Peyton, your talent is easier in a way. It doesn't matter what surface you're on, right? You can paint on rubber mat, you can paint on marble, you could probably paint on ice, you could paint wherever you go. Peyton, but before we let you go, because I wanted to switch over a slightly different tack, because Davia mentioned judging. And I think the other way of looking at this is, if you were a judge, what would you be looking for? Because this is also a question that every pageant contestant wants to know. And the problem is there's not one thing, because every judge is different. But Peyton, before I let you go, if you were sitting on a judging panel and understanding, okay, we need to talk about the specific system, what is it that you think you'd be looking for in a potential title holder?
So that's actually hilarious, because I've done this with a couple of my interview coaches before, where they ask me, if you were a judge, what question would you ask? And I thought on it for a few days before I had the answer. I honestly would ask them, if you were judging right now, what questions would you ask yourself and your peers? Because it gives you perspective on what they think deserves the title, right? And I think that can be ranging so far, depending on where those girls are in their mental state, where they're at in their prep, what they think this is, and also what they've been aiming for in their preparations, right? So I think that kind of spins the table around, if they can answer it, which also helps you decide what kind of preparation they've had. It spins the table around and allows you to really see what they truly think of themselves, because they're going to answer the question in a way that they could answer that question, right? I know we're doing a lot of mirroring here. It's hard to keep up. But I think that you would give the answer, your first reaction would be, well, what's an answer that I feel like I fit into, right? I immediately want to tell them exactly the bubble that I am in, the exact standards that I fit into, so that they know I'm right for the title. And I think that allows the judges to really see where each girl is at, and allow them to really see through the veil of the walls that the girls put up in the interview room to try and fit into a certain mold. And I think that would be the first question I would ask, and would allow me to see what I was really looking for.
I think that's a really clever question, because I am for any question that breaks through that veil, because I can tell when I'm getting a rehearsed answer and that's not what I'm interested in, because you've been coached, you've memorized it. I want something that's real. That's not a question I've ever heard before. That's a really interesting one. Peyton, whenever you have to go just quickly before I let you go, because Davia, Peyton works with eyes. And when I was doing my stalk, I read that you have heterochromia. Is this true?
Yeah, this is true. It's like hard to tell sometimes, but one of my
I was
eyes
gonna
is
say I can't
blue
tell.
and one is green.
That's so
So they're
cool.
like super similar, but you can really tell if I'm like wearing blue or in the sunlight or near an ocean. It's crazy.
That's really cool. It's actually a lot rarer than you even think it is. We know that it's rare, right? But a lot of patients think they have heterochromia and they actually just have a giant freckle in one of their eyes that makes it look like they have heterochromia. So I've only seen a handful of people that have true heterochromia, which would be one and the other. So that's really cool.
That's a fun fact. That's tailored for pageants, isn't it? Fun fact. So Peyton, we're coming in on 7:30. So whenever you need to step out, step out. You got to go take care of things. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Let's go across to Miss Haley. If you were judging, what would you be looking for? Bye, Peyton.
Hi, Peyton. So, like Peyton was talking about, I judged Princess of America Nationals last summer. And one of the questions I asked was, what is the most important characteristic you think I should be looking for today? And I also asked, what question do you think I should be asking the delegates? So I did find that one very telling because some people really panicked. And other people were ready to go and knew what they felt was important to win the title. And that told me a lot about how prepared they were. When I'm judging a pageant, I'm looking for somebody that I could put on TV tomorrow and interview about their experience and their platform and what they're going to do with their year and be confident that they are not going to embarrass themselves or the organization on national TV. The biggest part of my job as Miss Earth USA was news interviews, either on TV or podcasts like How I Met You, Adrian. So that is what I look for most in delegates. And I will say of, I think the 6 or 8 contestants that we crowned that week, there were 2 or 3 that the second they walked into the interview room, which was round robin style, so I was the last person they spoke with in the room. Right. There were 4 tables. I knew immediately when they came through the door that they were going to win. There were a couple girls who just had that energy and they were ready to go. I sort of look for a spunk or this confidence that they know they should win, not in a cocky way, but they know that they're ready to do the job because they've already been doing it.
Yeah, that's such an intangible sort of quality, but you know it when you see it. When apparently, because I'm good friends with someone actually from South Carolina who competed in Miss Earth USA one year, and that was a year that Marissa Butler won. And she said when Marissa walked in the room, you didn't even need to be looking at her. You just felt the energy in the room shift because everyone knew she was going to win. And that's something like if you have that in a pageant, when you just walk in a room and all the other women know you're going to win, and it's almost like, why we're just here to make up the numbers. That's something that obviously is an incredible quality to have. How you go about doing it, I think probably ties into what Davia was saying. It's a lot of prep. It's a lot of hard work. And you get to the point where you just know you've done all the prep, all the hard work, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And, you know, here's the best of me, here's the worst of me. I don't think that's a energy or quality you can really coach, though, directly. Is it, Haley?
I think it's something that you can build yourself as a contestant. So I spent the entire year that I was competing for Miss Earth USA living every day like I was already Miss Earth USA. And if you find it challenging to be motivated, the thing that worked the best for me when I felt like ending my run early or not practicing or skipping an appearance because I was sick or tired or whatever it was, I asked myself, would Miss Earth USA do that? And the answer was always no. So I just powered through, and you can kind of gaslight yourself into getting stuff done and being prepared. And that's how I got where I got with it. So I do recommend it.
So the secret to becoming a title holder is gaslighting. Yeah. That's
I do have one more thing though. Like,
sure.
I've talked to a few different girls about this, and if you're going to win a pageant, you will almost wake up the morning that you are going to win and sort of know. You'll still be nervous, but there's this level of peace that comes in where you're like, I'm okay. I'm doing the best that I can do. Everything is great. It's going to be fine. I woke up the morning that I was crowned and felt that way. Nobody told me that I was going to win. I was just like, we're good. And I know a few other people who have had that experience. So I don't know, food for thought. It's a fun one.
I've never won a pageant, so I can't speak to that. Avia, did you have that experience before you won your title?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's so hard. Like you get like so much imposter syndrome too, and you don't really believe it for yourself until it happens.
Yeah.
Let me go over to you, Davia. Not letting you off the hook yet. So, talking about judging, if you happen to be sat on a judging panel, what would you be looking for in a prospective title holder?
Yeah, I think for me, especially when I was judging Miss Oklahoma's teen, you especially as title holders, it's a little hard because we kind of want to see a little bit of ourselves in whoever we crown. And so we want to be able to kind of step out of that a little bit. I think for me is you really want somebody who's done the work, who obviously excels in every area of competition. And especially for the state level, I wanted to look at a girl who not quite was perfectly ready to go to Miss America's teen or Miss America's teen. It was Miss America's outstanding teen when I was competing.
It's
So I don't
changed
know
now,
if
yeah.
it's the same thing. Yeah. But somebody who with the right help could get there. So very different for like a national pageant. But also at the same time, like someone who I just really fell in love with and believed in. So that's kind of who I'm looking for. It's someone who's done the work, who obviously has a great resume, but for some reason I can't stop watching when they're on stage and that I want to root for. And that's different with every single judge that you come across too, because it's going to be a different girl with every judge. So it is a little bit of, it's going to be your night when you have the right judges panel too. But yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for when I was a judge.
How often, Davia, do you keep up to date with all the pageant goings on? Because you won your title 2018, so it's been 8 years, close enough to a decade now since you competed. I'm just curious as to what changes you've seen in the pageant industry since you competed, because 2018, it was pre-COVID. A lot changed during COVID.
Was.
And worse.
I was the Miss America year where we switched to Miss America 2.0. So if that puts it into perspective, it was I won Miss South Carolina with swimsuit and I competed at Miss America without swimsuit. So kind of a crazy, crazy time. Pageantry has changed so much. I try to keep in touch with it, especially now. It's a lot funner or more fun because I see girls that were teens when I was competing. Like we talked about Savannah Miles, Berkeley Bryant, who are now winning Miss titles. So it's fun to think about it in that regards and to cheer on people that I've known. But also I think that at its core, I don't think pageantry has changed that much. I think people are in it for the same reasons. They still have the same drive. It's all about community service and their platform at the end of the day. But I do think social media has played a huge role in pageantry. For example, our year at Miss America was the very first time that they let the contestants have cell phones backstage because they want people posting backstage photos. But I do think the way that you show up on social media is a huge way to not only advocate for yourself, but build your brands, but also build your platform as well. So much of like the digital age has made pageants more accessible too, even if we're not on cable or broad television anymore. But the way that you show up on social media is a huge part in pageantry today that wasn't as big of a part back in the early 2015, 2016s.
I'm not saying this, by the way, to make you feel old. I just like
No.
2018 just seems, because I got involved in pageants, I think late 2016, early 2017, and I knew nothing about pageants back then. But even I have just seen so many changes. I mean, you mentioned Miss America 2.0 going from swimsuit to no swimsuit. I think the same thing kind of happened with USA this year with Tom taking over, because I was doing some of the mock interviews with the contestants, including Savannah, and they did away with the paperwork. And all these girls were prepping for paperwork, and Tom changed it so that you had to do a 2-minute video, and the video would show as you walked in, and then the judges would ask you questions based on the video. And I love that because I think it's harder to hide who you really are in a video, although a lot of the girls overproduce it, in my opinion. But I think a lot of things are changing. Yeah, I think it's a lot harder to hide in a video than it is on a piece of paper. But I just want to segue onto another topic. But just before we do that,
wait,
we talked a lot.
I also competed before ChatGPT, so like I don't know how that is with paperwork either. Like I actually had to write my essays. Like that's insane to think about competing and like having like you have an interview coach at your fingertips.
The pet peeve that I have for people's chat GPT generated Instagram captions in paperwork. Guys, it's sad. It should not be a flex to be able to write your own stuff. It should not, but it is.
I mean,
I gotta go ahead.
Just gonna say, Davia is on Substack, so in terms of being able to write, I mean, you can't. I see a couple of Davia's posts. You can't write like that with ChatGPT. It just wouldn't work.
No.
Haley, what were you going to say?
I also like the videos instead of paperwork for judges as well, because it's really hard to remember a person for the piece of paper and associate the piece of paper with the person that's standing in front of you. It's a lot easier to remember a person and their information when it's given to you in video format. So that's probably much easier for the judges staying organized too.
I was just going to say, because we were talking about what it takes to finally have your breakthrough, and I think the consensus really is it's a lot of inner work and a lot of persistence, which probably is not that surprising, but I think it's important to hear from people who've been there, done that. There's no secret to finally winning. A lot of it is a bit of grace as well. But just to segue on from that, because Davia, you've been on reality TV, so has Haley, and we've talked about social media and branding, and I just wanted to quickly pick your brains before I let you guys go. With social media, because Davia, as you said, social media has just become a huge thing with pageantry. It's almost inseparable now. In Australia, we recently passed a bill that if you're under the age, I think, of 16, you can no longer have a social media account of your own because they determined that it was, toxic or bad for young people's mental health. And I don't disagree, but that shot a lot of teen pageant title holders in the foot, because that's the only way they managed to, talk about their platform and things like that. But I just recently, on Instagram at least, crossed 10K like a few days ago. And I grew from about 3.5K to 10K in the space of a year. So I have my thoughts on that, because I never thought that would happen. And the way I got there was not the way that I thought I was going to. But Haley, while she was at Miss Earth, crossed 10K as well. And then Davia, you're blowing us all away. You're like on 20-something K. So I think it's important, just because I don't know if I get Davia, have a chance to grab you on again, but can you just give some like social media, and then I'll go across to Haley, social media and branding tips? Because like it or not, I think a lot of pageants look at us and go, wow, that girl's got 1,000 people. That person has 20,000 people. That person who's got 20,000 people is going to help us grow our pageant much more than the 1,000 people. And I know that's not true, but that's the way the human brain sometimes works. So Davia, for yourself, any branding or just social media tips in general to build up that following?
I think in terms of social media, you have to think about your strategy in like two different buckets. You have who you show up for the audience that already loves you and follows you, and how you show up to grow your audience. And those are two different styles of content. We live in a day and age where everybody's posting online. So just posting about yourself isn't going to really attract new audiences. So you have to be able to give value in the content that you're creating. So in terms of becoming a growth engine and really wanting to attract new people on social media, you have to think about what are the skills that that maybe your friends ask you about all the time. So pageant girls, it could be about your platform, or it could be about teaching people how you're prepping for a pageant, or your favorite beauty secrets, or how to stay healthy but living a balanced lifestyle. You have to be able to show up and teach people how to do things, whether that be through reels, it could be through carousels, but you should really be thinking about what value that you can bring to your audience that teaches them how to do something in their life, and that will help you grow. But then at the same time, you have to be able to share enough and be relatable enough to really show your own personality and curate to the people that are actually following to be a little bit behind the scenes of your life as well. Social media loves consistency, so showing up as much as you can. But then also one thing about social media, which I do think a lot of pageant girls struggle with, is people like to see raw realness. I think we've seen so many people who are cookie cutter and have a perfect life. And I think it's really easy for pageant girls to want to be perfect, because you have to be perfect in competition. But on social media, I think if more girls, especially in the pageant industry or anybody wanting to grow on social media, can embrace more of the raw, everyday, real life moments, that's what sparks conversations and gets people responding in your DMs, because then you're relatable and not only aspirational. So I think social media is a good place to not only teach people how to do things, let people in on things that you're working with and you're really passionate about. To that point too, like bring people in on your goals. Like, don't be afraid to say, like, I am doing this because I want to be this title holder one day. I started writing my Substack thinking like no one was going to read it. And I showed up on social media going, not sure if anybody's going to read this, but I want to write a book one day. So I'm going to share it with you. So you have to have this kind of like drive to know what exactly you want, but then also an ego check to know that you're going to have to share the hard parts too. And you're not always going to be perfect. And that lets people in along the journey. So I think if people can strip down a little bit less of how they want to show up on social media and then just start showing up on social media, that is when you'll see the most success, honestly.
I want to circle back to that in a minute, the whole authenticity thing, because that's something that coaches throw around about a lot. And it's like, oh, you got to be authentic. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Again, it's advice, but how? Because then a lot of pageant girls do it and they think they're being authentic. But if this makes sense, they're being authentic in a pageant way, which again then doesn't work. And they say, oh, the authenticity doesn't work, but it's because it's not authentic. And I think people have a really, really advanced BS meter in this day and age. We know when you're still hiding something. And so I'll go back to you to get your thoughts on maybe a couple of posts that actual pageant girls could do in order to be authentic. But just before that, Haley, what are your thoughts on what Davia said? And as you said, you crossed 10K when you were at actual Miss Earth. And you said, I think you had a celebratory slice of pizza, if I'm remembering correctly. But what are your thoughts on the whole social media and branding?
Well, first of all, in terms of relatability, because that is such an important thing that so many pageant girls do struggle with. One thing I love about Miss Earth is that they have us run around in jeans and t-shirts at internationals, and we do service projects in jeans and light makeup, and you see delegates show up that way and not just in full glam 100% of the time. Not every function is a red carpet. Not every function requires a red carpet outfit. And that makes you more relatable to audiences on social media and also to fan bases for international pageants. And then we also have the no makeup round. So you see all delegates competing for Miss Earth without makeup at some point. And we were allowed to do light powder and brows and like lip gloss. I did not wear anything on my face for the no makeup round because I just thought about 12-year-old me needing to see somebody with absolutely no makeup on. And I was like, I'm going to be that person for whoever is watching this, that's a young teenager right now and needs to feel confident in themselves. So I think it's really important to also show that side on social media. So if you're competing in something like that, the first thing I did on the morning of that competition was post some pictures with no makeup on. So just sticking to that is really important. For me, I was not really trying to grow. I learned this when I got to Miss Earth, but many people compete in international pageantry to gain social media followings. So that was something that kind of happened for me by accident. In terms of branding, I think if you picture what your elevator pitch is going to be in the judge's interview and you list off what those attributes are and what that work is, and you break that into a content strategy on a calendar and you post something relating to each of those points every single week, you get that brand consistency. I was posting every single day from January to I think April when I was competing for Miss Earth in that last 6 months leading up to filming the show. So it was a lot of work, but it was definitely worth it because we actually had a social media score as well for Miss Earth USA. Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the things about just growing, people see the number and they're blown away, but it also, who those people are does matter. And the thing is, if you go and compete in an international pageant, let's say it's in Southeast Asia, no surprise, you're going to end up with a lot of people, fan base from Southeast Asia, because they're crazy about pageants. The same in Latin America in a way that no other people are. But then if it comes time when you're talking about your business, whether it's writing a book or something else, launching a Substack, what I found is that very often those numbers hurt you because they're not interested in anything else you have to do. They're only interested in you in terms of, oh, she's a former Miss Earth USA, or she's a former, Miss America or something like that. And it's not just numbers from my experience. It's also where those people are. But if I just go back to you, Davia, in terms of that authentic, just give people, this is unfair, I get this, but we talk about authenticity all the time. Do you have any if someone's there going, okay, what should I post? Can you give like maybe 3 ideas for a genuinely authentic post? I know it's a completely unfair question, but I just want to get the wheels turning, because I think a lot of pageant girls struggle with this.
I mean, I think like an easy one would be like a day in the life vlog. That's like, people want to know like, what exactly do you do as a local title holder? And it's an easy way to showcase the work that you're doing, but then also think about your personality. What are things that you laugh about with your friends, or little moments in your day that might not be perfect, where you can show in a video, this is my routine. Like, this is not glamorous part of my day, and like, I can laugh about it. But then here is the rest of my day where I put on a pretty dress and I go to an event and I actually do something good. And then you can have thoughts about what you learned that day. I think kind of like showing people what exactly that you do is something that's so easy. Also, just for like a growth engine wise, people don't use carousels with text on them. So I think that is the easiest way for you to teach people about your platform. One, I think you should always introduce yourself, like maybe once every couple of weeks. And you can even have a carousel where the first picture is you and your title holder outfit or not. Or it could be like, hi, I'm Davia. I live in New York City, and here's some facts about me. Second slide. I studied ballet in Moscow, and I wanted to be a professional ballerina when I was younger. Slide. I ended up going to college, and now I fell in love with the Miss America organization. Slide. So now, as Miss whatever, I'm using my platform to talk about X, Y, and Z. And it tells a little bit about your story, or you can even turn that into spreading awareness about your platform. I think there's so many ways that you can show up on social media with teaching people. Also, just like hop on trends. That's really easy too. But yeah, like the more relatable you are as well, coupled with everything else, it will go a long way than you actually think. Also, throw up a question box on your Instagram story and ask people what kind of content they want to see from you, and listen to what your audience wants to see. I think that's kind of really where the magic is. Be a servant to the people that follow you a little bit, and they will show you kind of what they want to learn from you. If you get a comment on any of your videos asking a question, use that for your next piece of content. And if someone goes, oh girl, I love your outfit, where are your shoes from? Make a video about where you got your shoes from and how you styled it. Or if you got a comment asking, oh, I really love this about your platform. Like, what's this part? Make a video about it. Kind of like follow where your followers are leading you. And that will give you insight as to what people want to know more about from you.
What's really interesting to me about what you just said is, because there's always traditional wisdom in terms of what people will say is going to feed the algorithm. I think it's still at the moment, make reels.
Yeah.
So everyone was making reels, and for some people it worked, for some people it fell flat. I decided last year I was going to take it more seriously, but I've always lent into humor and then sort of slightly spicy things, like things I hate pageant coaches doing, right? And I found my niche, as you guys say. I say niche, but I found my niche there because carousel posts for me blew up. I don't know why, but the things that blew up my account the most were actually either humor or spicy takes, but they were actually single image posts and carousels. It was never reels. But I feel like if you start posting, then the algorithm starts telling you, your audience starts telling you, we want more of this. And so then you start doing more of it. I don't think it's actually that difficult. I think a lot of people get in their own heads a bit too much, or follow the conventional wisdom and it doesn't work, and then they just give up. I think you have to find a way of expressing yourself that fits your personality. And then when you find something takes off, even if it goes, maybe you on average get 1 like, but maybe something then gets 10 likes. I mean, for clarity's sake, like I put up one post, it now has over 10,000 likes, like 14, 15,000 likes. Then I will post up something else and it gets 3 likes. I mean, am I the only one who has this variability?
No.
I mean, no.
Yeah.
It is all over the place, right?
It's shocking.
Yeah. But to your point, like if you see something that gets an increase of likes and views than your normal stuff, reiterate it, keep going, do it over and over and over again, because it shows that whatever you did is working.
That's actually one thing I did, which I'd never thought of, was I had some posts that had really outperformed. And so but they were a year ago, 2 years ago. And you go, oh, if I repost it, people will just see I'm reposting. People don't know. They really don't. And then guess what? The same poster did well a year ago, probably still going to do pretty well now. And I did that. I was like, I don't actually need to do any work. I mean, don't get me wrong. I did the work previously to get to the point where I know what I'm talking about. But give the people what they want. As you said, you're the servant, serve your audience. They're telling you what they want through the algorithm, through the likes. I just want to go to Haley, but Davia, do you actually do this for a living, like branding and marketing? Okay.
You can tell.
Yeah. I work in brand marketing for a beauty brand. So I handle their influencer and social media strategy.
That's awesome.
Kind of like fell into it. I love it.
Far too many thoughts on this for just to be a casual conversation. If someone wants to work with you, do you take on like clients, or you just like 9 to 5 your full time?
No, I used to take on, moving to New York City is very expensive. So whenever I first moved here, I did have clients on top of my 9 to 5. But as of right now, I just do my 9 to 5.
Fair enough. Good to know, because otherwise they're going to be like, how can I work with them?
Yes.
So I do their social media and influencer relations.
Ooh, their marketing is really good.
Haley has thoughts now. I have no idea. But Haley has thoughts. Haley, what about you? If someone is like, oh, what do I post? I also want 10,000 followers and compete internationally, but we need to be authentic. If that's the goal, what are we going to post?
We post everything. We take the vlogs in the gym and we sweat and we see it and we cringe a little bit and then we post it. I think getting past the perfectionism is the biggest hurdle for any pageant girl to learn to show themselves not quite pageant-like on social media, knowing that there are judges that are going to see it, and that's okay. So show your day today. I used to post a lot of practicing in the ballet studio because I went back to dance after a 7-year break from Point to get ready for Miss Earth. So that was a big journey for me, and a lot of no makeup and a leotard in the dance studio. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. Just take your day today and make content out of it. Once you've filmed something or you have pictures, you can also reuse that too. There are a lot of different ways you can talk about the same piece of content. So don't stress yourself out too much about, oh, I need to go record something today. You probably have something in your camera roll that you can use.
Yeah. I know a lot of people talk about batching stuff as well. So they'll go somewhere, take a whole lot of content until they don't have to be doing. Yeah, you don't have to be one of those insufferable, or I don't want to say maybe because you guys do that, but the people who won't let you eat your food until they've taken a photo of it. I'm starving. It's like, let me eat. Like, no. And then they need to move the plates around. And then it's like, by the time I get to eat my steak, it's gone cold. So rather than having to be one of those people, just batch your content. Haley, were you saying that's what you do? I'm sorry.
Well, going to dinner with pageant girls is the most fun if you're a food picture person, because we all do it. So I'll start moving stuff and then the girlies start moving stuff, and then somebody has a rectangle light and somebody else has a rectangle light. So we just get it absolutely perfect. And then the person with the best camera takes the photo and then we all post the same picture. So there's some teamwork that goes on that makes it really fun. It's an art project.
I have learned more about taking photos in my time in pageantry than I ever wanted to know. Yeah. I have a friend who's over here. She wanted photos of her in a Giovanni dress in front of the Opera House, the Sydney Opera House. So what do I know? My theory with if I take 100 photos, one of them is going to be usable. And so I know now that you have to actually bend down and crawl around on the floor to get the angle right. So I was doing all of these things. Take 100 photos, they all look the same. Like, I don't like this one, don't like this one. They all look the same. You look amazing. But the photo worked well enough that Giovanni actually used it on their website. So, I should have gotten credit for that. I didn't get any residuals on that one. But there's something to be said about volume and just taking a lot. So, look, we've been on for a minute. We had Peyton, she's now gone to take care of Noah's flood. David, I just wanted to ask you before we wrap up for today, is this your first cat, or have you had many, many cats?
No, this is my first cat. My dad was allergic growing up. So we had dogs, but never a cat. But I moved to my own apartment in the city and I was getting a little lonely. So I was like, I need a little fluff ball to come home to.
Can you, I don't know if you've worked this out yet. Some cats, because I love cats. I've had cats for, I think, forever. Some cats like to be scratched gently on the head. Some cats love it when you scratch them under the chin. What does your cat like?
She likes both. She likes on the head and under the chin. Sometimes when I'm she loves it.
Aw.
She just likes attention.
That's very
My-
ragdoll of her.
Hmm.
My cat's the same. As soon as you start scratching him under the chin, then his head starts going down and he starts weighing down your hand, trying to get more of that. And when I stand up to leave him, he then catches my hand to pull it back so he can have more attention. What's her name?
Her name's Dasha. So that was like my name when I was studying abroad in Moscow, and like my Russian name. So I did name my cat after myself. I just wanted a D name, and I just really liked it.
She's so cute. Look at her. And she's so well behaved. She just sits there. She doesn't whinge and complain.
Yeah, it depends on the day. She did like jump at my computer earlier, so I had to like scoop her.
I saw that, but we wanted to see her. That's the one thing cats are very good at. They know when you're on a video call, and the first thing they'll do is jump right in front of it and parade their tail right in front of your webcam. I was actually on a discussion in terms of AI. I was developing a medical AI app with my brother, and we needed to get on a legal call with all these patent lawyers. So it's a very expensive call. And my cat decided to take that moment to jump up in front of the webcam and moon all these judges. So I think, my cat.
Your cat
That
is
just
so
happens
sweet.
spontaneously. You think.
I have the best timing whenever we're on calls. Crazy things happen.
Gorgeous
Okay,
cat too.
Thank
What's your
you.
cat's name? What sort of cat?
His name is Cobalt, and he's an Angora. He's the softest cat in the entire world.
Haley, how
Great.
big is he? He looks
He's
huge.
about 10 pounds. He's all fur. He has 2 layers of fur. So like there's a cloud of fluff around me now. But he looks bigger than he actually is.
Aw.
Is that Angora like as in Angora wool? Because he kind of looks
Yes.
like he's got wool.
Yeah, they're very fluffy.
So we've just become the Crazy Cat Lady podcast. That's okay.
I know,
I
we
wish
also-
I had-
We both match our cats.
Oh yes. I love.
Give me a puppy.
Of course you do. That
Beauty.
that timing, by the way, no one's ever going to believe that wasn't
He's so
planned.
good. You know what's funny? I have my AirPods in too, so he couldn't hear you. I looked over like, where is he? He could come and be on the camera right now. This is a good time. And he appeared out of nowhere. I summoned him telepathically.
That's one thing about cats. They have an impeccable sense of timing. I don't know what they can sense when you're giving attention to someone or something else, and sometimes they just really dislike it. So then they will jump in front of your webcam.
Mhm.
The other thing is, Davia, I don't know if your cat has done this, Dasha's done this yet. Have you noticed that cats just like to push things off tables?
Mine
She's-
doesn't.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
she just started to do a little bit of that, but not a ton.
So whatever you do, don't leave any expensive things near the edges of tables because they will just smack them onto the floor. I don't exactly know why. We're going to move towards a close because I kept you guys on for a while now. Davia, and thank you again for coming on, for giving us your time. What's the best place for people to get in contact with you, reach you, watch what you're up to?
Yeah, you can follow me. All of my social media handles and Substacks, anything is Davia Esther. And you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Substack, and that's the best way. DM me any questions that you have, and we can become friends.
I highly recommend Substack, by the way, for you guys, anyone who's planning on building a little business. The app is amazing, and now you can go live and all sorts of things, but I put all my videos and stuff up there, and it turns it automatically into podcasts. And you can monetize as well if that's something you want to do. I just woke up yesterday and I was looking at my bank account, like, where did this money come from? Because I just had like $200 American in it. And I was like, that's good, but I'm confused. Like, where did it come from? I thought someone was paying me for coaching. Then I found out someone had subscribed to my Substack for a year. And I completely forgotten that I did that, even offered that. So, that's cool. It's like, money in the background coming in. That's always a good thing. David, do you have anything exciting coming up, like in the near future, that we can follow along on?
Morgan and I are actually going to start a series on social media. It's going to be called How to Train Like a Victoria's Secret Model. So if you need any swimsuit, health and wellness tips and tricks, follow along. It's also going to be about a balanced version of that. So that's fun. Besides that, nothing really. Just if you want to see life in New York City and all of the ins and outs of it, follow along.
I can't wait to see what you come up with, Morgan. because from my experience, you can't keep that woman even vaguely under control. And Morgan, when you're watching this, I love you, and that's why I have you on. But have you actually created any content with her yet? Because I'll tell you, you're in for a wild ride. That's what I can promise you.
Oh yeah, I have. I mean, she's been my personal trainer for 4 years now, and so we did this whole program when I competed for Miss South Carolina USA, and after the pageant, I think I placed like top 5, and I was like, well, that was fun. She goes, no, we're not done yet. And we did like a whole Sports Illustrated swimsuit model audition, and I like got to go to Miami. And so we were like, why don't we just recreate that whole process again, but then put it on social media? So it's like a fun little project for the both of us. Mostly for me. She just gets to boss me around.
Do you know who her celebrity crush is?
No. Who?
Walton Goggins.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I also have a celebrity crush on Walton Goggins. Morgan likes to say she has the same forehead because he's got quite a large forehead. And because I interviewed Morgan, obviously, and I said, I don't see the forehead resemblance at all. And so she puts her hand literally on her forehead, and like not even all four, like she could fit 5 fingers on her forehead. So she's got Walton Goggins' forehead, but that's a celebrity crush. She also wrote the foreword to my book, The Beginner's Guide to Pageantry. I interviewed her. I loved it so much. I said, can you write the foreword to my book? Because it added a certain sense of legitimacy to it. And she did that. So she's an amazing person. I thank you for subbing in for her at the last minute. Haley, what have you got coming up this week, apart from being a Harvard student and a cat mom to Cobalt? What have you got coming up?
I have a videography shoot tomorrow to film my ring from Bloomstone Jewelers for Miss Earth USA. So I'm really excited to do that. It's kind of Super Bowl themed. So I'm going to be posting the video that I'm making for them on the Super Bowl in honor of the Super Bowl, showing my Super Bowl ring. So I'm really excited about it, filming that tomorrow. Sorry?
Say Super Bowl again.
Super Bowl. Why?
Super Bowl so many times in one sentence. I'm just having fun, Haley. Keep going.
I know I got lost in the sauce. And then I have class next week. I think I'm going to hang out with Gia and Gianna on Friday. Maybe watch something on a Google Meet. That's our thing. We love a good Google Meet hangout. And then I want to talk to my group of pageant girly friends that I call the Council. We have a group chat called the Council about maybe doing something for Galentine's, because we're pretty much all single. So maybe we should watch like a rom-com on a Google Meet and hang out on Valentine's Day. So that's the plan.
Didn't you just have a watch party for Bridgerton?
I did, with my mom.
Yeah, that's one show that all the girls go crazy for, and there's nothing that I feel less like watching than Bridgerton.
Do you know my pageant friends don't watch it?
Oh, good.
I'm
there
like,
are some.
This is so tragic. They love Grey's Anatomy, though.
Is Grey's Anatomy still going?
I think so. Is it not? Is it? Oh, wow. That's good.
Isn't it on season 5082 or something?
Should be.
God, okay. I can't get into any new series because I binge watch the entire thing. So if it's something like Grey's Anatomy, I'll be here until the end of time. Haley, do you have your ring there?
I don't. It's upstairs. It didn't match my fit today. Sorry?
Okay. I was going to get you to show it to Davia because, she's into the whole fashionable thing, and there's a really nice story behind it as well.
I can get it.
You want to go grab it quickly?
I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Well, Davia, thank you for coming on. Do you have any pageant plans in the near future, or are we firmly retired?
Oh, I am firmly retired. There was like a part of me for a split second when I first moved to New York. I was like, New York, USA? And I was like, no. I really enjoyed just doing social media right now. It's more fun. I do think if I were to do pageants again, there is kind of like a little bit of branding that you do have to like not overshare as much on social media. And I like the life that I've built. I think I'm just going to stick with social media for now. And root on my friends.
There's certain things they don't want you to share, and I never feeling like I'm handcuffed. Just as someone new, because you mentioned the whole Chat GPT thing, as someone who does a lot of content creation, what are your thoughts on the whole AI situation?
I mean, I love it for work. It helps rewrite some of my emails. And I think it's great, especially if talking about like either as writers or in social media to use as like a tool to help you.
Yeah.
But don't overuse it. Like don't have it write things for you. Have it help you in research or just kind of fleshing out ideas is really helpful.
I got sent someone who from a national organization that wanted me to interview their title holder, and they had forgotten to remove the chat GPT said, like the ancillary stuff. And so I got this email and it's like, oh, if you want to rewrite this as a more engaging email, I'm like, really? Like, I didn't respond to that one. Haley, show Davia your ring.
Yes.
I want to see.
So it is based on my Miss Earth USA crown. So it has the colors in it. It's citrine peridot and then white diamonds. I'm trying to get it to focus. Kind of close.
Yeah, you can't get too close.
That is insanely beautiful.
Thank
I've
you.
never seen a title holder ring that gorgeous in my life.
Thank you. I didn't want to make it look like the crown because I feel like everyone does the ones that look like the crown. So this just has the stones and like the concept. So I'm going to film it tomorrow. I'm really excited.
That's stunning.
Thank you.
I think it's like the most beautiful ring I've ever seen. I thought about title holder rings and I came up with a few simple plans. I never would have thought of something like that. Anyway, thank you, both of you, and Peyton, who's gone, and Morgan, who's sick and hopefully will be better by next week.
Yeah.
But Davia, thank you for coming on at last minute notice and dealing with our craziness. I know it can be a lot at the best of times, but you should see what it's like when Morgan is here.
No, I'll always be a fan. Come back and watch all of them.
This was, I think it's only our third or fourth episode, but this was by far the most sane and civilized conversation that we've had. And it's because Morgan wasn't here. Morgan, we love you. I know Morgan needs to hear me say that because otherwise she gets really upset. But thank you, Haley, as well, for your time. And thanks, everyone, for watching or listening. And we will speak to you next week.